Welcome back to the channel. Please like, share and subscribe. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley in New Hampshire, where she held a town hall and answered questions from voters. But there is something that is making headlines that she did not mention. The former governor and UN ambassador was asked what caused the Civil War, and her intriguing answer to this question has made a lot of people talk about this. Here is where you're going to learn the truth and why her version of the answer is biased, watered down, unjustful, and chaotic. But before I break it down to you, I'm going to let her video play so that you get to see social media play a huge role in helping the voiceless speak out their minds. You will see some palm-colored people come out and express their own opinions on issues to do with history and why it played a massive role in shaping the country we now know as the US. So here is a video of Nikki Haley getting asked this question.
What was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War?
I'm not ready for president. I want to see your view on the cause of the Civil War.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government. What do you want me to say about three?
You answered my question.
Next question.
Yeah, I mean, look, she seemed surprised to get the question, maybe because she was in New Hampshire, but it's not the first time that she's made comments like this, Irina. In 2019, she said the Confederate flag was about, quote, service and sacrifice and heritage. That kind of talk may work in a southern state like South Carolina, but will it work in New Hampshire?
See, this is what's complicated about Nikki Haley. She takes 3 steps forward and she'll take 5 back. And this is exactly why her candidacy suffers in moments. Just like in the 4th debate, it seemed like she hadn't brought the real version of who she was. What we saw in her answer, her inability to come out with the words right away on its face, answer the question boldly, showed that she does the exact playbook that I have seen non-courageous Republican candidates take. They continue to say, well, I don't have to answer the question. What do you think is the answer? This is something I always advised against because it does come back to bite you. When you've shown a version of yourself that's authentic and courageous and then you go another way, this is what's complicating, again, about Nikki Haley. We have to look at her for who she is. She's somebody that's caught up and serving as her own worst enemy right now. She's caught up in what she thinks she ought to be on most days to a Republican electorate. And then she knows she has a moment to set this legacy forward, just like she did in the aftermath of the church in South Carolina and talking about taking down that flag. She is a complicated candidate. She will continue to have missteps like this. And this is what worries me. You can't go mano a mano with Donald Trump when you complicate yourself like this over and over again.
Did you hear the part when Nikki gets asked the civil question? She said, well, don't come with an easy question. But does her answer suggest that that was an easy question? And if it did, then why is it giving her such a hard time? And the man that asked the question get asked the same question. And his response was, I am not running for president. So many people are speaking against her, as you'll get to see in the following video. You might just want to sit down for this one because I promise it will be provocative and you might just want to react to it too. Here are those videos I promise to play you. Pay attention and I'll meet you on the other side.
I used to think that Nikki Haley was incredibly talented, but her answer to the question about the Civil War, in my mind, is disqualifying. She could not say the word three. And if you dig deep inside of that answer and that inability to answer the question, there's some deep, serious, ugly shit. Nikki Haley, I think you're done.
I'm totally fine with Nimrata Haley changing her name to Nikki to appease her racist base, right? She's able to kind of like be a career opportunist and deny her own cultural heritage so that she can be elected by a bunch of us. But what she can't do is deny our shared cultural heritage here as Americans when it regarding the Civil War. I mean, the fact that she was governor of South Carolina where the Civil War began and she didn't mention slavery as the cause of the Civil War is not only offensive, it's dangerous. This rewriting of history that's going on is a large part of fascism, and you can see, like, if they're going to rewrite history, they're going to have to give all the people that remember. And this is where this stuff goes. And so Nimrata needs to check herself, right? We can all see you, Nikki. You can deny your own heritage. You can't deny ours. Sit down.
For years, Republicans have waged war against public education, and it's unfortunately paying off. Not only do we have a presidential candidate in Nikki Haley, who refused to acknowledge that slavery was the cause of the Civil War, but I regularly come across people who insist that this country is not a democracy but is a republic. We also see that 1 in 5 people under the age of 30 does not believe the Holocaust happened. It is past time that we start fighting for our education system, because those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it.
So Nikki Haley last night was at a gathering in New Hampshire of voters, and somebody asked her what was the cause of the Civil War. And her response was, freedom and choice and not having government tell you what to do, blah, blah, blah. And then the questioner said, what about slavery? And she responded kind of condescendingly, like, what about it? Like, what do you want me to say about slavery? So here's my suggestion for Nikki Haley, should this ever come up again. Here's what you should say about slavery. It was horrible. It was violent. It was shameful. It was a disgusting chapter in American history. Black people were dehumanized, were brutalized, tased, murdered. That's a good start. What do you think?
That's you, Nimrata, with your parents. I mean, Nikki, I'm sorry. That's you, sis. I was just trying to make sure I had the right person when I looked you up, because what I found is that your father is a professor who taught at an HBCU in South Carolina at Voorhees for almost 20 years. So I just wanted to make sure that was you, because surely your daddy taught you that the Civil War was about slavery, but for whatever reason, you just couldn't form that word in the moment you were put on the spot, could you? It wasn't enough of a response for your constituents. Is that what it is? Because, if that's all true and this is you, the internalized supremacy is strong in you. I mean, real strong. But carry on. I see you've moved up in the ranking amongst Republican candidates for presidency. And so I guess that you're consistent with their messaging. But that's you. One more is that you? Those are your parents, right? Very interesting.
All right, you guys, I think you're being a little too hard on Nikki Haley for the way she responded to the question in regards to the Civil War, saying everything but mentioning the real reason, which was slavery. Maybe she didn't know. After all, she's a politician, not a professor. Her dad, pictured here on the left, was a professor. Not her. And he was a professor at Voorhees University in South Carolina, the first HBCU founded by an African-American woman. How could Nikki possibly know? Maybe Nikki Haley isn't familiar with the Confederate Constitution and the fact that it was pretty much like the regular Constitution, except when it came to things like slavery. Maybe she didn't know about the speech that the vice president of the Confederacy gave at the time to rally up his troops. When she says things like this about the Confederate flag, Dylan Roof is the one that made the Confederate flag look bad, not the Confederacy. After all, the Confederates were just patriots fighting for their freedoms. She has to think that, right? Because why else these things? There's no way she possibly said to herself, even though I know the answer is slavery, I know who my base is, so I can't talk about it or bring it up. I gotta pander. I don't think she thought that. It's not like she was a UN ambassador or anything like that. I mean, you would assume a UN ambassador representing a certain country would know the reason why the country they are representing had a civil war. What? Oh, she was a UN ambassador too? Oh, anyway, that doesn't matter. Maybe we should cut Nikki Haley some slack. After all, she probably just didn't know. Anyways, bye!
You've probably already heard Nikki Haley's comments about the Civil War. Regardless, let's look at the clip real quick and then we'll talk about it. Comments that the Civil War was started over government rule. No, it's slavery. There's one reason that the Civil War happened, and it's slavery. And it's all of the southern states that are currently red states that wanted slavery legal. Her campaign team is walking back her remarks today. Let's talk about what they've said so far. She said that the lesson is that freedom matters and individual rights and liberties matter for all people. Then she said, that's the blessing of America. That was a stain on America when we had slavery. But what we want is to never relive it. Never let anyone take those freedoms away again. Never let those civil liberties be taken away again. What about a woman's right to make her own choice regarding her body? What about the privacy that woman should have between her and her doctor?
Nimarata Nikki Haley is an American politician and diplomat who served as governor of South Carolina from 2011 to 2017 and as the 29th United States ambassador to the United Nations for 2 years from January 2017 through December 2018. She is a member of the Republican Party. Haley is the first Indian American to serve in the presidential cabinet. I mentioned her real name and some information to do with the background because people reacting to her answer kind of expect her to have a more firm and realistic approach in responding due to who she is as a person and because of the dangers and implications that such a watered down response poses on those who have no deep understanding of what she represents. And the palm-colored man in this video also said her changing her name from Nimarata to Nikki was done so that she could appease her racist base. And if you have been paying attention, you may have also gotten the part where he said she's acting as a career opportunist, and his reaction suggests that her response was intentional. By denying her own cultural heritage, Nimarata is positioning herself to be elected by a bunch of racists, he said. Other people in the US reacting to this video seem to get the realism of her political stance and the impracticality of the answer that Nikki gave on the causes of civil war. Most palm-colored people seem to be insecure of the history of their own country and how it was built on the backs of non-palm-colored people through slavery, specifically people and indigenous Americans. Admitting that slavery did not happen is offensive and chaotic in that it creates a perception in palm-colored people that suggests the Civil War had nothing to do with slavery, when in fact it did, and it was actually the main cause of the Civil War. And because of that, the economy was affected because slavery was a profitable business at the time, being worth about 3.5 billion US dollars, making it one of the largest capital assets in the United States at that time, and an essential part of producing a lot of agricultural goods and anything that needed free labor. So when they talk about the Civil War and economic freedoms, they're actually talking about the freedom to own people because that is more profitable than paying them. Now let me talk about humanization of black people and how palm-colored leaders are making a huge mistake by watering it down to economic reasons. That is setting them up for ruin. The history of your own country should be told right by those in political positions, simply because realism is the only way to unite any country. And by realism, what I mean is transparency. And if the leaders of any political group fail to do that, then the citizens or members of that state or body will only have a narrative of what's being told and not necessarily what is real. Imagine if a young person gets told by his parents that because of his or her color, that person can exercise authority on those with a much darker skin tone than that person. What kind of a person is that young person going to become if they have heard those words for years, now have grown up and have a political position or have a sort of platform where they are followed by thousands of people? Just think about that for a second. And doctrine is something that most leaders have been using for decades to make their followers more submissive to them. I mean, if a person told me that I can have anything I want if I do something that that person requires of me, and when I look around the person, I can see the things I've been working extremely hard for all my life. Hey, at the end of the day, almost all humans are programmed to accept a system that is beneficial to them. We see it all the time in movies, in the lessons we are taught at school, and sometimes when we want to fit in. And that's what we are seeing Nimarata here trying to do. And for that reason alone, we are able to see that even leaders Africans are just human beings like us, and they too do have vague perceptions and will do anything right or wrong to please certain people. The people reacting to Nimrata are opinionated and dislike someone, even a political leader, speaking on their behalf. But at the same time, the sad reality is there are still people out there, specifically palm-colored people, that can watch such an informative video all the way to the end and say something like, oh, so what if she said that? That's the way things happened, or this and that. And that's the more reason why, if you stumble upon such a video and you think the message should be spread that slavery was real and racial discrimination is an injustice, you should take a stand by sharing. Some people will watch the video and still claim that Nikki did not know, or that she was unaware that her saying that was gonna make headlines. Like, seriously though. Isn't that what politicians are supposed to do? Make headlines? They do what they do or say what they say so that they get a reaction from you, the audience. And once they get your attention, they'll come out and say something like this. Yes, slavery can never happen again, but going forward, doesn't that mean we should focus more on the people to live their life, not have government, not to have any other person tell them what they can and can't do? And that is actually what Nikki said. If she could say everything else and not say the real reason, is very concerning, especially if some palm-colored people support that. How will those that are not aware of the history of slavery take it? A biased one-sided point of view or narration can cause a lot of damage. If you are very privileged and wealthy and have never seen a poor person, you will never understand that poverty is real and many people have been unalived because of that. What was your take from this video, specifically Nikki Haley's response and all the people reacting to that? And if you are Nikki Haley herself, what would have been your trendy response? Do you think slavery is the main cause for the Civil War? If not, what do you think? And if you haven't already, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video so that we can continue putting out content like this and make more people aware of what is going on in the world. Take care and see you on the next one.